It is just a huge honor today to be podcast interviewing Katherine Bogushefsky. If you can repeat that right now, you win a prize. She's a licensed professional counselor at New Path Counseling Consulting right here in Ahwatukee. She's been a counselor for 30 years, and the last 13 years right here in Ahwatukee. Katherine Bogushefsky Reamer has a master's degree in counseling and is an Arizona State Board licensed counselor. She is a member of the American Counseling Association, a Level 2 certified EMDR therapist through EMDR International Association, and is certified in family and divorce dispute mediation. At this time, she is also in the training process to become an approved EMDR consultant. Katherine has spent over 30 years providing counseling for a variety of issues and concerns. Besides working with the general public, Katherine has also gained a lot of experience by working with very difficult populations. Populations she has had experience with include criminal justice, the seriously mentally ill, victims of crime, CEO coaching, and trauma therapy for first responders. Katherine's extensive working history has enabled her to work with most issues that may represent themselves in therapy: trauma, anger, addictions, relationship difficulties, anxiety, depression, and life changes, to name a few. Katherine has always made every effort to stay apprised of current and alternative therapies that are beneficial in the healing processes. In using cognitive behavioral and coaching technique, she feels feedback, education, and homework are very important in making personal life changes. Katherine also incorporates more progressive forms of treatment, such as family mediation, eye movement decentralization reprocessing, which is EMDR, and emotional freedom techniques. You will find that Katherine is very down to earth with a reality-based, direct approach to therapy and has no problem giving you honest feedback. She also feels humor plays an important part in working through life's difficult issues and incorporates it often. Katherine is of the Christian faith and feels it is very beneficial to bring in the support of the Lord during the healing and change process of therapy. Katherine, however, has also worked well with people from all nationalities, religions, and backgrounds. You will find that if you are willing to work in therapy, Katherine will be honest, supportive, and caring no matter how difficult your issues. I thought you would be, I've heard of you for years and years and years, and I'm really excited you came on the show today.
Hi, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's an honor.
Most of what you work with are kind of private, behind closed doors.
Yes. Yep.
So I thought I'd bring you on the show and let a bunch of folks in Ahwatukee who might be thinking maybe they're embarrassed, maybe they're shy, maybe they think they're the only one.
Right.
But what I was also concerned is the news tries to get us to focus on all the problems with the Trumps and the Clintons and the Koreans and Putin and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted you to talk about what you're seeing and treating here in Ahwatukee. Keeping it real in Ahwatukee.
Well, let me tell you. In Ahwatukee, we have a cross-section of the rest of the world. Ahwatukee may be seen as a place where, got upper middle class people, but we've got the same problems as everybody else out there. And you hit the nail on the head with, being behind closed doors, because I am behind those closed doors. And I do see those people that are hurting, struggling, having issues they're trying to work through. One thing that I want to kind of portray to people with counseling is a lot of times people think, well, I don't need to go tell somebody my story. I don't need to talk to somebody. What's that going to do? Give therapy a chance, because in therapy, there is talk therapy. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy. And what that is you're learning how to deal with your thoughts. You're learning skills and techniques. We even kind of consider that more education. So you might have parents that are struggling that you teach parenting skills. You might have that person that has self-esteem issues that you need to teach them assertiveness skills. You might have couples that are having communication problems. So we're working on the communication. But underneath all that is the deep-rooted hurt and pain that we all carry. We have these negative beliefs about ourselves that cause us problems in our everyday life. And when I say negative beliefs, they are things like, I'm not good enough, I should have known better, I have to be perfect. Things that we logically know, no, I'm okay, but they get triggered and it comes up. And what happens is when we have traumas in our life, things and events that happen to us, which happens to everybody, it starts to build and build and build. And then if you don't take the time to work through that stuff, you bring it into your daily life. You bring it into your decisions. You bring it into your job. You bring it into your relationship. You bring it into yourself, how you care about yourself. So one of the things that I have found, and the community of Ahwatukee, is I have CEOs that come to me. I am also a part of a program where they send me the first responders because they have traumas in their life that we need to work through the traumas.
What is a first responder?
Police and fire.
Okay.
And I've worked a lot with victims of crime. And let me kind of take this back to, and when we're talking about therapy, you and I with the cognitive, we're talking. But this underlying stuff that our body holds, these traumas that we hold, have to do with stuff that is in our brain, that's stuck. For example, when you're in third grade and your third grade teacher screams at you, that's a trauma. Then you go home and your parents are having issues and they may mistreat you. Then your girlfriend or boyfriend breaks up with you. That's a trauma. So you develop this belief that maybe I'm not good enough. What happens when you get married and you get in a relationship and your wife gets frustrated with you? You react. You get upset. You shut down. And what happens is, logically you know your wife cares about you. She has no ill intention, but you've already got these triggers going to just be like, I can't cope. I'm shutting down. This is what the EMDR helps work through. I even have brain scans, and I have those, but
Yeah, get them out.
Okay.
Get them out.
All right. With these brain scans,
I had a brain scan done, and they just saw a gerbil.
a gerbil. All right. Pretty much, I don't know if you can see this, but when you have trauma, and this is a brain scan, this is like somebody who has some post-traumatic stress. This is a first responder's brain. And with their brain, when they went to this horrific scene, they had all these areas in their brain overactivate. Because when we have trauma, we do not know where to put the trauma. It can go into our fight, flight, freeze part of our brain. Because all we need to do is, what do we need to do to survive? Think of military. That could be the trauma we experience or the continuous trauma that we experience that causes things like anxiety, conflict avoidance, irritability, depression, negative thinking, decreased motivation, isolation, guilt, second guessing, argumentative, worry, grudges, oppositional, increased startle response. So I could be talking to you for years in therapy, and you could say, okay, I've got it. This is what I'm going to work on. You go out the door and you get triggered and you're right back to the old maladaptive behaviors. And let me explain to you a trigger. I say to people, do you remember what your grandmother's house smelled like? Or your girlfriend's perfume? People are like, yeah, I remember that. That is a trigger. So when you're in the grocery store and you smell a perfume that your ex-girlfriend wore, you're like right there. That it brings you right back. Those are trigger. That scent trigger goes the deepest in the brain, but triggers could be even a look that somebody gives you that reminds you of the way your dad treated you. So these triggers are not something that you can logically sit there and say, I'm going to change that behavior. It happens. Let me give you another example. You're a man of the medical field. Say you have gangrene in your leg, and with your leg, it's got pain, so they cut the leg off. What happens when you have phantom leg? Your leg's gone. The pain's, for all intents and purposes, it's gone. No, your brain still remembers. I work with people who have illness. I work with trauma. I work with people who, sports people. They when they're doing sports, something can happen and then it just will throw them off. So we've got to process through that thing that went wrong so they can get their confidence back. Because, you know, it's like, okay, oh, here we go again, and then they just psych themselves out. So I'm trying to get to the point where it's a brain thing. And when we process through it, it releases the trauma so we actually forever let it go. This therapy is actually a lot quicker than talk therapy. I've had people, numerous people throughout my life that come in and they've been in therapy all their life and they say, finally, something has helped me move past it. Now, I have a machine that I use, and it's kind of a lot of wires here, but it's got headphones and it's got little buzzies. So when we talk about bilateral stimulation, I do it auditory, visual, and tactile. So we've got the little paddles here that we hold for the buzzies, and there's lights, and you move your eyes. This is another way. I'm giving you different ways to help you understand how this works. It's not hypnosis. Think about when we have REM sleep at night. We are actually equipped every night when we dream to work through our day, through the REM sleep. That's bilateral stimulation that we're doing naturally while we sleep. Now, you and I both know that we dream. We have certain, you wear this little pot, the Fitbits, you see you have your REM sleep. We don't remember what we dreamed. Think about a time when you've been struggling with something. You have nightmares because it's something a little more difficult that your brain is trying to work through when you're sleeping. So we naturally do that, but a lot of times we can't process through it on our own. Say if you're abused as a child. Kids, they can't work through that. There's a thing called disassociation. They will disassociate because they don't know how to cope. So in the office when we do it, we go back to the memories of you being a child and you being in that horrific situation and where you feel it. It's not here. And then we do the eye movements, and your brain just lets it go, whatever comes up. I have people of, say, victims of crime that they remember being physically hurt, and their body starts reliving the pain. But it's really quick. You process through it as long as you sit there and you process through it. Your body goes, okay, let it go. Let it go. It's almost like you're on a train and the memories and the feelings are just going by. And then when you leave your session, your body will continue to process for 24 to 48 hours, continuing to let go. Now, I do tell people I will only work with people who are stable because I am not going to dig up old traumas if somebody is not stable to be able to cope with these things coming up. Also, I incorporate EMDR with the cognitive behavioral portion. So say I'm working with you and you have a trigger in a relationship you're in, but now we've got to give you, hey, because your brain will automatically stop you. It won't go down that path it used to go to shut down or get angry. You'll be like, wait a second. No, I don't need to do this. But now we need to work on what skills do you have. So let's work on skills of how to express yourself in a healthy way. There's a lot of other things EMDR helps with. If you get the concept of the brain having these things stuck, the best way that I explain it to people is separating yourself, your logical brain, from your emotional brain, which is the triggers, that caveman part of the brain that just reacts. And if you logically say, okay, but then you know that, and if you have those negative cognitions, I always say it's from somewhere. We shouldn't have any of these negative cognitions. We should feel like we're fine just the way we are, and we did the best we could in a situation, and I have choices. But because of these traumas, they're stuck. And then what we do when you come into therapy is, first of all, I do an assessment. If you're just coming for skills, that is fine. There's a lot of skills we can work on in therapy. But most of the time, there's trauma that's pulling you down, just keeping you stuck. And what we do is we work through the trauma, so then it makes it easier for you to make the changes. And I did say I work with police and fire. They witness things on the job all the time that for us, it would be, we would understand how it would be hard. Same with the military, that we need to help them process through, because If not, it turns into anxiety, depression, shutdown, all these things that we hear of in that community, the first responders, military. And then take that to, just being general population. A lot of times people say, oh, well, I don't have PTSD. Think about the old stuff. And the way I tell people is, even if you close your eyes and go back, does it bring up any tension in your body? Because once we process through, when you go to those memories, they don't bother you anymore. And you don't even remember. The memories like here when it's intense, like your dad beating you, and then after we process, you're like, yeah, he did it. It's over here. It doesn't define me anymore, and I don't care. And actually, I forgive my dad. My dad was abused by his dad, and I get it. So it's not only letting it go, letting the pain go, but it's a change of heart. And there's a piece of a forgiveness in there, too. So that's a lot of information.
You keep saying EMDR.
Mm-hmm.
And you also use the... so what is EMDR?
It's called eye movement desensitization reprocessing. We have found, or at least I have found, and it goes...
Eye movement...
Desensitization reprocessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain that.
It's based on the eye movement, and that's where we have the eye movements with the buzzies. There's the lights at the end of each buzzy, and you do the eye movement, just like the REM
Can't you put
sleep.
that on a Nintendo game console?
You know what? There's a lot of inventions out there. They've got certain things coming out where even, think about this. I don't know if somebody's a runner, that's bilateral stimulation. That runner, you go for a good run and you feel good. Bam, 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 bam. It's the...
I hate to ask a selfish question, but I just can't quit thinking about it. Half the population's afraid of the dentist. Mm-hmm. The other half is afraid of the dental bill. Mm-hmm. If a lot of people are in horrible pain for years because they just cannot even fathom going to that deal.
Right.
Could you?
I have treated many people over the years to get over the fear to go to the dentist.
Really?
Yeah, it's a phobia. A lot of times.
I hope we get all your message out.
Well, because think about it. It's a trauma that they're still carrying. They can sit there and logically say, well, I know they're going to numb me. I'm an adult. But it's that fear from being a little kid and not knowing what was going on. So we go back to when they were that little scared kid, and we process through it. And then also what EMDR can do is you install the confidence. I work with public speaking. I'll get to addictions. That's also a different protocol for EMDR. But I get them to a point where you go in there, we have installed what you're going to tell yourself. Which will trigger even smells. Take some lavender, get to that good place, and go in there and do it. Fear of flying. If anything like that, you've got these triggers that started, these maladaptive beliefs. Maybe the dentist when you were a kid was mean and didn't use any anesthesia. Yeah.
Sure.
And so now we're letting that go, so you're just dealing with this.
We have senior citizens in Ahwatukee that lost half their teeth as a child without any anesthetic. Oh, yeah. Small rural America. Yeah. You remember when we were growing up, my favorite Monday Night Football guy was John Madden. Mm-hmm. That big old he was a football player, then he was a coach. Mm-hmm. And Monday Night Football had to drive him week to week in a bus because he would not get an airplane. Right. Here's a guy that could beat you, me, and Ryan up in the same time, but he couldn't walk into an airplane. Yeah.
Yeah, and this because think about, it's these irrational fears based on the trauma that's stuck in their brain, and their trauma part of the brain is going, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But his logical part of the brain is going, how many flights fly every day all over the world, and statistics says I can die 5 miles from within my house in a car.
Yeah, when John Madden was doing that, I mean, in America, 30,000 people a year die in their car, and not even 30 die in an airplane.
Right. But that's logic. That's not we have a protection system in our brain with our fight, flight, freeze. And that's the part I'm trying to tell you. It's totally separate from the cognitive.
So they're probably, first thing they're wondering is, you've been doing this 30 years. Mm-hmm. What is the success rate? Does it work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. You ask anybody, and that's the thing that's hard with therapy, because when you do EMDR, it's a lot of deep stuff that people maybe don't want to be open about. But I get most of my referrals word of mouth. Yeah, this treatment works.
When you go into dentistry and you say like jaw joint problems or whatever, 85% of your patients for that are women, even though women only get half the population, meaning that the epidemiological studies show that men just don't seek treatment.
Right.
So in your field, is it the same? Are most of your clients women? Because men just, I mean, I remember when you were a little kid and your dad went and asked for directions.
Yeah.
And everybody's in this, me and my 5 sisters and mom are begging dad. We drove from Wichita to Disneyland. Wichita, Kansas, Disneyland. So it's like 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
And so many times we would just beg him to ask for directions. And he's like, ah. You know,
Yeah.
So do you have more women patients because women just seem to get help?
Yeah.
Whereas men just stay at home?
Yeah. Yes, but it is really, really changing. Remember the years ago where chiropractors were quacks?
Mm-hmm.
And now insurance will cover it because they're going, oh, wow, this is actually works. Men are more recognizing that this is just a healthy thing. Like I said, I have CEOs that come in to just, okay, what's a healthy way to deal with this situation? What can I do to become a better person? Not that I have issues, and a lot of time we do find out little things that we need to work through just to help them get that next level up. And speaking of, quacks, I have insurance. I'm not on most insurance plans, but insurance now pays us EMDR therapists extra because they know it works. If you're doing that therapy, okay, we're going to give you a little extra.
So then I want to flip it around. You're saying your therapy works.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's flip it around. Talk to your Ahwatukee homies. What if they don't get therapy? What if they don't get it fixed? What happens down the road when they just let this buried dog sleep in the backyard and don't address it?
Well, there's a lot.
Does it get worse?
Oh yeah, because it has to do with our neural pathways in our brain. Because traumas link on the neural pathways in similar. When we process the things that we process are all linked together. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, where they're not good at this relationship, they're not good at this relationship. It just builds and builds and builds. And every time another negative thing happens, it's like, yep, see, I'm not good enough.
I've always heard the adage that when you get divorced, if you don't fix the problem, you just carry that baggage into the next marriage. And that's why you see people who are 75 years old and they've been divorced 5 times.
And think about stress, addiction, all these things, depression, all these things, health issues. When I work with people through health issues, we go back, and a lot of times some of this stuff was also linked to some horrible thing they were going on to in their life. So, you've got this whole ball of, your trauma in your life, your health issue, and it just carries forward.
When I saw, the first radiograph was an X-ray, like Röntgen, and then the next advance was a CAT scan, and then there's an MRI. But these electrical maps are the greatest.
Yep.
But you know what it reminds me of? You know how at 55, you start seeing patterns of the same thing?
Yeah.
When I was little, when I was in high school, the rage was Golden Glove boxing. And then parents started realizing, I don't want my kid punched in the head.
Yeah.
And that sport has really died down immensely. Right. I'm hearing a lot of chairside, you know what, my husband played football, he played at ASU or U of A, or he was college ball. He won't let any of my boys touch it. They got to go to soccer. So brain health.
Yes.
I mean, it's all over the NFL. There's some people predicting that the NFL is not going to have any high quality. The quality of the recruits in 20 years.
I'm not
is
surprised.
going to be pathetic because
especially now they have all the research.
Yeah, but the NFL players aren't letting their children play.
Right.
So 20 years from now, they'll have to use droids, maybe R2D2 and C3PO. But let's keep it back home in Ahwatukee.
Okay.
Who are your patients? Why are they calling you? What are you treating here in the hood?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything.
If it's everything, then I
Couples.
want to start going through statistics then. So when I talk to the policemen and I read the reports, ever since they started 911, for every state, for every year, domestic violence is number 1 call.
Yes.
What does this have to do with domestic violence?
Oh, a lot. think of the trauma. There's research that shows babies in the womb who are in the womb where there's domestic violence in the household, screaming, yelling, physical stuff, have increased fight-flight chemicals. So think about that, and then having kids growing up in that. Think about whoever's being abused in the relationship. They are stuck in that relationship and can't see out because their trauma is so strong that they're afraid to do anything, or let's say if they do something and try to get out of that situation, they don't have any self-esteem, or they're struggling with it. And what this does is helps them work through the trauma of the situation. That's a very, very clear example of a trauma situation, and a repeated trauma situation. This right here, this first offender, this is a one-time incident. The sooner we can get in there, because it didn't go into long-term memory, the sooner it just dissipates. But when you have somebody that has consistent, we've got a whole set of things that we've got to work through. And it still can go pretty quick.
The study that blew my mind the most was they went back and found all the children who were in the womb in World War II as Hitler was invading their countries. Mm-hmm. And then they found all those people 50 years later. They were in the womb, so they didn't see any of the trauma.
Right.
They were in mom's tummy. Mm-hmm. They had like 3 times the amount of mental illness. Twice the obesity rate. I mean, it was just like
stress.
It was just like so in the womb.
Mom, you can feel the stress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there it is. 50 years. You're 50 years old and you're still being traumatized from when your mom was carrying you for 9 months.
And then let's think about this: addictions. What do people do to cope with all these symptoms I'm talking about? The anxiety, the depression, the isolation. What do they do? Addictions. And we can go to addictions from video games to cocaine, where people use that because it helps them escape some of this stuff.
And I think that 3, the media, that's another thing the media always, maybe they, like right now they always talk about opioids. Mm-hmm. And opioids is a huge problem. Yeah. But a far bigger problem the 3 most abused drugs are sugar, nicotine, and alcohol. Yep. And they sell it at about, 25 locations in every corner. Yep. Your anxiety, so you go get a 64-ounce Coke or a pack of cigs or, a fifth of...
And what's interesting with the EMDR, it's a different protocol, because think about it this way. We go and treat the good feeling you get from the drug. We have you get to not the trauma, because it's not trauma. It's different. It's stuck in your brain that you want that drug. Listen to this research. Cocaine addicts can watch a video of cocaine being cut, and it triggers all those parts of their brain. The dopamine gets released, etc., because that triggers the good. Oh, I want that. Coffee. You smell coffee. They found people that smell coffee get a little, get the chemicals going that you get from drinking it. So when we treat it, we go to those good feelings, because now that's what they're hooked on, is that good feel. I want that good feeling. I want that good feeling. And so when we treat it and they let go of that good feeling that they got, then they can deal with changing the behaviors and saying, you know what? No, I don't need that.
And there's a ton of research that the grocery stores all use, that if you have a deli and you have a flower department, the women smell things cooking, flowers, they buy more. And then when they cut costs, because they can't make donuts as cheap as Dunkin' Donuts, so their delis, the high margin foods aren't perishables than deli and the flowers. Those are horrible. Right. But when they take those out, the sales go down. Yeah. And then I take the reverse of that, which
Remember I told you about the smell?
Yeah.
You and I could sit here and go, oh, we're not hungry. Put a fresh baked sheet of chocolate chip cookies in front of us.
What? Let's do that experiment now. Ryan, go make some hot chocolate chip cookies right now.
I'll tell you right now, all of a sudden we're hungry.
And I always think about that when I walk in my office, because it's 118 outside, so the thing's shut up and the AC's on.
Yeah.
but it smells like, formicresol and all those. You go into a hospital, you go into a dental office, and that could be jarring up memories.
That is, you hit the nail on the head. You know what most people, when I go back to their dental memories, it's the smell of it.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's not the dentist, it's the assistant.
Well,
it's the
yeah, of
assistant
course,
smells.
of course.
The dentist always bathe and use deodorant, but the assistants.
And we go back, and like I said, scent goes really deep into our brain, and so a lot of times it could just be going from that scent. And obviously, when we process, then it leads to other things.
So do you think there's something to aromatherapy then?
Oh, yes, definitely. What I do is EMDR is not just the eye movement stuff. Before we even start working on the trauma, I install, it's called a peaceful place, and I tie it to a scent. So people can have that scent. Like for me, I love lavender, and it's a stressful day. I just take a sniff of lavender, and, it just is like, okay, it can calm me down for that second, because I've already installed that this is a positive thing in the brain with the EMDR, because the EMDR not only can take out stuff, it can install positive. And then, like I said, somebody doing their sports, okay, here you are, you're ready, you're up to hit the ball, and be there, feel it, and then tie that to confidence. When you used to feel confidence, tie it to a statement, I got this, I can do this. So, and if you need a scent, because scent, like I said, all it does is it goes so deep, they can tie it to a scent. So it works, this type of treatment works on so many different angles that, it depends on what you're trying to work through or improve on.
I know, it seems like about once a year, I have a patient who their house is broken into, and their wife just can't live there anymore.
You're right.
She feels violated.
Trauma. I've worked on that. Accidents. People get in car accidents. They get on the road and their body triggers. Do you see? That's another great example. They know logically that accident was random, but they get in the car, their heart rate's up, they start having panic attacks, they start having irrational fears, or rational depending on the traffic. But it's their body reacting. So then we go and process through the accident, so the body, the trauma, the part of the brain that's holding the trauma can say, it's over, it's done, you're safe now.
But you're fighting an uphill battle, because I know America. I know Ahwatukee.
Right.
And America is 5% of the world's population. There's 7.44 billion people. Only 232 million live here.
Right.
And they take half the prescription pills. And it seems like whenever something like this comes up, first thing Americans think is, I need to go get a pill. And then when I watch the news, like when you watch the news, it's bizarre. It's like half the commercials are prescriptions, and then they're listing like 25 side effects, and then the other half of the commercials are class action lawsuits if you've been harmed from one of these deals. Like, hey, buy this, and here's 20 side effects. Hey, if you've been screwed over and you're sick by that. So and if you say, well, and then there's in the dental journals is just filled with these things called articles on polyphagia that by the polypharmacy where by the time you're on 5 prescription pills, so this one has 10 side effects, this one has 10 side effects, this one has, but when you start
and
matching
the
10
pills
against the 10 and 10 and 10, that by the time you're on 5 prescription pills, statistically you're in trouble. So what? How do you justify, okay, like anxiety? We'll just go to your physician and get a pill versus go and get therapy.
I have a hard time with anxiety medication. I do understand there's a time and place, just like pain meds. I agree there's a time and space, but I see a lot of people that just pop it. You do not need to pop a pill to work through your anxiety if you can work through the underlying issues that are causing the anxiety. I get that some people have some horrific things going on at the time, the loss of their spouse. There's things that definitely, that is very helpful. But anxiety medication just, it shuts down your system. It's not solving anything. You might as well go drink a couple glasses of wine
And you know
But
what's
it's
real
not-
hypocritical
Yeah.
in the dental community is in the medical community
Uh-huh.
is if you tell a dentist or a physician that they have high blood pressure, my God, they're gonna change your lifestyle, lose weight, start exercising. But then their patients, here's the pill, here's the pill, here's the pill, and then the physicians are weird because if you say holistic medicine, they're like, well, that's quacky. But it's like, dude, I've known you for 30 years. You're holistic. When your doctor told you need to take high cholesterol medication, you lost 50 pounds enjoying Lifetime.
Right.
When he told you had high blood pressure, you
Right.
quit eating salt. And you know, Mayo Clinic did a study with 8,000 people with high blood pressure. And if they quit smoking, lost weight, start exercising, and reduced their salt intake to under 1 gram a day, 92% of the
Yep.
people didn't need medication.
Right.
So it's kind of we're in this weird world where chiropractors or aromatherapy or any of these things are like
Acupuncture
alternative
does great stuff.
wacky medicine.
Yeah.
But the doctors are the first to do the alternative. The
Yeah.
physicians are the first
really-
to do treat. You know.
Yeah, and you know what? What I think is just kind of like you're the professional in your field, and just like me talking to you today, I probably am telling you things you never heard of, and I think that has to do a lot with just education. I think I have a lot of physicians that do now refer me for these treatments. Years ago, no, what is this? But now they're hearing, wow, this stuff works. So I think this is a great, right here, this is a great opportunity to get information out because it's just understanding it. Just like there might be a new surgical procedure that is discovered that really is a great surgical procedure that we may not know because we're not in that field. But when we're all segregated,
In little silos.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like,
And you got the worst part. I mean, a tooth. That's pretty easy. It's, you know, some bugs ate a hole in it.
It depends.
We remove it and fill it in. But the brain. I mean, the brain has got it. I mean, like everybody thinks like a bypass is so sophisticated. You're really just a plumber. I mean, you're taking out a clogged pipe, finding a cleaner
Right.
one in the leg,
Okay.
and switching it out. I mean, you're
seems difficult to me, but I agree
well,
with you.
you're a glorified plumber. I mean, dentists drill holes in rocks and fill it in, but the human brain, I mean, that's the final frontier. They're going to figure out how
Yeah.
teeth, feet, hearts, fingers,
Right,
and
right.
work
No, the
before the
brain,
brain.
I
mean, that'll be the last thing
Yeah.
they completely figure out.
And that's what I try to keep specialized in is really as we're going on figuring this brain out. I mean, the stuff I told you today, I'm always learning new stuff, always, because research keeps coming out with new stuff. And I might be telling you something here that we may go, oh, there's a tweak to that. Cause
I think there's a dark side to what you're doing in the fact that, you know, if I get breast cancer, there'll be pink ribbons and they'll have a 5K. If I break my leg, they'll call the ambulance. They'll take me to get a cast. Everyone will sign it.
Right.
But when something's going on with your brain, or your marriage is failing,
Yeah.
or you have anxiety,
Yeah.
you'd rather say people, I have a broken arm, sign my cast.
Yeah.
Or I just had to get my tooth pulled.
Yeah.
But you don't want to say, I just had to get my broken brain fixed.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you agree or you disagree?
Oh, I totally agree. That's just like, I would love to, get the news out that this can help, but a lot of times, people even having a hard time admitting for themselves that they have, I'll call them demons, that are bothering them or causing issues. Because our society, I think, is so much, okay, work hard, do this, kids to sports, we just are like, focus, just keep going, But sometimes what I find that end up in my office is they hit that point, that breaking point, and then they say, all right, I need to do something.
So you say your office. Where's your office? It's on 40th Street between Ray and Pecos?
No, between Pecos and Chandler Boulevard.
Oh, what I said Ray. I'm sorry. I meant
Yeah.
Chandler and Pecos.
On the corner of Fry.
Where that light is.
Yep.
So you turn light, and they used to have a place that draws blood in there.
Yeah, they just moved. The Snorquest Lab and
It's still in
Primary
there?
Eyes in there.
Snorquest
just moved.
So they're not in there.
No.
And so are you facing Fry or are you facing 40th Street?
I am facing 40th Street, and actually I share my building with Dr. Webster. She's a chiropractor.
Dr. Webster?
Yep, Dr. Sherry Webster. We also have massages there.
So I know what she's thinking. She's thinking, okay, now I know where you are, but how much does it cost if I just want to come in and talk to you? Or
like I said, I do not. I'm not on most insurance plans. My rates are $125 a session, and I generally do a 50-minute session. If I do an intake for couples, I want a longer session because
a regular session's 55. How long?
50 minutes.
50 minutes.
A therapeutic session is considered 45 to 50 minutes long.
Okay.
By the time give yourself an hour.
Yeah. But I'm sorry, I interrupted. Couples or what? Longer?
Oh, well, couples for the intake, I do a longer intake because you realize when we're...
What's an intake? The first appointment?
The first appointment
Triage.
is... Yeah, where I'm trying to figure out, I'm getting a lot of information, and then once I get that information, I'm going to talk to them about the angle that I think would be best to treat whatever we're looking at.
What if some kids from Desert Vista and Mountain Point are listening to this and they haven't told their mom some dark secret, they're taking drugs, they're anorexic, they're bulimic, whatever. How old do they have to be to go there and see you by themselves?
I have to have the parents sign that they can come in and sign all the paperwork.
Until what age?
When they turn 18. When they're adults, then they don't have to have their parents
So
sign.
18 they can come on their own?
Yes.
So they got fake IDs for beer right now, so that'll work.
Never had a kid do a fake ID to go to therapy.
But let's keep it kids, because in all seriousness, when you start talking about family issues here in Ahwatukee for 30 years, substance abuse is huge, and 85% of the time it's alcohol. Marriage problems are huge. They say half the marriages in Ahwatukee fail. And one of the most stressful ones is their kid was so perfect from birth to 15. They thought they were going to write a book how to raise the perfect kid.
Yeah.
And then he got his car keys. All hell broke loose, and now they're living with a demon upstairs. Right. What do you do with that child who comes home, slams the door? Anytime you talk, they roll their eyes. Right. How do you deal with all that?
That would be a case-by-case basis, because you got to remember, when you're dealing with a kid, there's the other part of that kid is the parents. Do these parents need some parenting skills? Do these parents need to learn how to connect with their child? To answer that question would be hard, because what I would generally do is a lot of times I like to talk to the parents before the kid comes in. I want to kind of get like a little background, what's been going on, what are the behaviors, and then I have the kid come in on their own and kind of hear what the kid is going through. You were a teenager, and maybe you've had...
I was a perfect child.
Oh, really? Okay.
My mom won't sign off on that, but I swear I was. Well, I want to go back to the data. So on the phone, on 911, number one call in Ahwatukee, well, actually for every state and every county, is domestic violence.
Yes. Number 2,
suicide. And that's that could be a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
It could be a 70-year-old man.
Yeah.
So the point I'm making that is the one thing I fear the most of the people listening is I got 30 years experience to say women are far more likely, like say with TMJ, TMD, headaches, so many other things, they raise their hand. I know a very close loved one who died. He had black water diarrhea for a year, and then one day he collapsed. By the time he got in the hospital, he told the doctor, he says, "What? You've been pooping black water for a year?"
Right.
Well, women, day one they're like, "Well, that's strange."
Yeah.
Day 2, like, "Well, that's not normal." Usually by day 3, 4, or 5, they're like, "I usually don't poop black water."
Right.
But the man,
Yep.
he just they find him, and the average man is living to be 74. Average woman 79 and a half. Women almost live 5 years longer. And at first they thought, well, I have testosterone and you have estrogen. But now they're starting to really show is that men don't raise their hand.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they don't raise their hand, it leads to suicide, drug addiction, alcohol, punching your wife.
Well, let's go back to the belief system that I finally think is kind of changing, but the belief system is you are crazy if you to go to therapy. You have to
The nut hut.
Yeah, as opposed to it's just a healthy part of making ourselves better or working on, kinks in the road. A lot of my clients, I've had them for years. They haven't been in therapy for years. They will call, I need a tune-up. We do a couple sessions, send them on their way. I have something that came up. We do a little work on something, send them on their way. That's kind of like similar to physical health. And speaking of men, it's interesting. I have a lot of my men say, my wife says I need to get therapy.
Yeah.
and you know what's going on at home probably.
And who has the shortest life expectancy in America? This is what's sad.
Yeah.
Single men. Who lives the longest? Single women. Yeah. When women marry men, their life expectancy drops and ours raises.
Right.
And then when she leaves you, they divert back to their...
Yeah.
In fact, there's the saddest study I've ever seen, and I can attest that. I see this in my backyard, that if you're a male over 65 and your wife dies, half the men die within a year.
Yeah.
So if the men are saying, she's nagging me, but a lot of them come into the dentist because their wife made them.
Oh yeah. I think you get the same.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder why men are like that. Is it ego? Is it pride? Are women more humble to raise their hand and say,
I think there's a component of that. I don't know ego, but more the I need to be strong, the self-sufficiency. It's nothing, or it could also go into, I hear a lot, I'm so busy, I got this, I got a family to take care of, and it gets pushed to the side.
So how could you help a married woman listening right now approach her stubborn husband who won't pull the car over and get directions that he needs to go in and talk to someone?
What I have found is generally these women, I tell them, why don't you just start therapy yourself first? Because a lot of times they call and say, I want couples counseling, but I don't know if he'll come in, or he says we don't need it. So when the woman comes in and starts her own therapy, first of all, she can deal with some of her stuff and the way she's coping in the relationship. Maybe she's got triggers with stuff he's done his whole life that she's up to here with now that we can work on for her to not be so frustrated. But you know what? When the woman's going every week and the guy's going, what are you talking about in there? Hey, or even I'll give her homework to take home to do with her husband. So I call it long distance couples therapy. And then, then the male, the husband says, you know what, okay, I'll go. Or I say, I would like to hear from your spouse, to hear their perspective, to help you work on your stuff, which is true, because people come in and portray what they want to portray. And I think once they kind of get in and see that it's really not that scary, like I said, I'm a very direct person. I call it like I see it, but I really want to give it to them, out of love. Not that you're a bad person, but hey, this is actually pretty normal that some of these things you're doing, based on maybe some of your history or some of the things you're going through. Then the person kind of goes, okay, this isn't that bad. It's not, bash on me hour.
You said love, but also on your website, you say the Lord. Katherine is the Christian faith and feels it very beneficial to bring in the support of the Lord during the healing and change process therapy. I've noticed in the research I've read, when they do an AA program, when they are in prisons or whatever,
right.
when they bring in a spiritual component, that it measurably helps.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I guess the best way I put it is there's a lot of stuff that we do not have control over. Let's say most of the stuff we don't have control over. And
Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Harvey.
Yeah. So, it's...
Is that what you meant?
Yeah. Or in daily life, we could go out and get hit by a truck. The ability to take some of this stuff, or even some of the stuff that we've gone through with our traumas, and just turn it over. Because a lot of times, we tend to carry it. You know, we have to solve it. We have to be on top of everything. We have to realize, you know what? I can only do the best I can do right here. Every day, I'm focused here. I'm doing the best. I'm going to try to make the best choices. I'm going to, you know, not worry about all this, not bring all this on me. You know, and you can go, we were just talking about the news. You know, I have people that are just like, it weighs them down. And, you know, we have to set that aside. What is that doing for us, mentally and physically? Nothing. What control do we have? Pretty little. We have control right here. And when people start to get a little perspective, and that's that thing, we're turning over.
And that's what I'm trying to do with Tukeetown, because if you watched and read everything about North Korea and their missile launches, and then Putin and the Ukraine, and all these, and ISIS and terrorism and all that stuff, it's all negative, it's all toxic, but worse, if I spent 1,000 hours thinking about it, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
But then when I look under the hood of my own house, I could have been with my grandchildren. I could have been doing something with my boys. I could have been. That's
being present. That's a whole type of theory, being present.
And the other thing I don't like is, like, say you go to dinner with some friends or some families over at the house. When you're talking about the grandchildren, it's all fun. You're talking about the kids, it's all fun. There's so many things you do fun, but when they start talking about politics, their volume goes up and they're lecturing, and then someone over here is disagreeing, and next thing you know, you got a blowout about the policy of America's response to North Korea. It's like, why are we discussing this? I mean, and how productive is it? You couldn't even take all that knowledge and earn enough money to buy a cup of coffee at the Waffle House.
Right.
So you don't look like you're having a fun time.
There's a place for discussion, but like you said, you don't want it impinging on you and causing stress and causing where you're missing the here and now that you can enjoy.
And I've seen the adults and the kids, you know, arguing about politics, and the 2-year-old one's pushed on the swing.
Yeah.
And you can tell she's confused. Like, it doesn't look fun in there. and I'm sitting there thinking, why aren't we pushing her on the swing?
Yeah.
And throwing her a frisbee.
Yeah.
You know, so just kind of reeling in back
and
home.
like I said, there's a time and place. You know, within your practice, within my practice, you know, there's a time and place where, you know, with staff, I need to sit down. We need to look at things. We need to make we need to make some changes. We need to do things different. You know, okay, now that's done. Now let's move on, you know, with living life.
So I don't have much more time, but I'm trying to go through the deals. I was trying to go numerically. We talked about domestic violence, substance abuse. I would think the next biggest thing measurable is depression. Lots of people are just sad and depressed.
And that's why, like with the EMDR, people Google it and they go, well, I'm not that. I don't have severe traumas. It's all these little things that happen in our life that just build up and build up and build up, that over time it just, like I said, causes that depression, that anxiety that builds us down or brings us down and weighs us down. And so a lot of times when I have people with anxiety and depression, they don't even understand where it's coming from. They know things that might be going on, but a lot of times it's not just this. It's this and this and this and this and this.
And the other thing that I think is sad on depression is the people I know that take depression medication, the ones I know well, they stay up late watching TV, and then they don't get enough sleep in the morning, and then when they wake up, they don't eat breakfast or exercise. They have a Starbucks coffee, and then at lunch they go hit a drive-through Taco Bell. And then after work they go to the bar and eat cheese balls and drinks, and then they come home and then before they go to bed they take a blue pill.
Well,
it's like, man, so many things went wrong in your day.
Right, I agree.
You didn't get sleep. You didn't get nutrition. You didn't get exercise, and you're going to fix it all by a blue pill.
I'm going to give you another twist.
Okay.
Which that is a cross set of the population. I agree with you. But then you have this other set of the population that are just overloaded. And the medication does help. I will say antidepressants do help. You know, you get your chemicals across the neural pathways to feel better. We have a lot on our plates. I mean, look at Ahwatukee's a good example of it. You know, we want to be and do everything.
I read a study from John Hopkins that said that even with medication, that the group that did 40 minutes of exercise a day did significantly better
I always
than the
tell
group
people,
who took the meds with no exercise. Because getting the circulation, just emptying the trash and all those cells.
And that's that whole getting your chemicals up. And it's not like you do alcohol, drugs, and stuff where your chemicals go up but then bottom out. You know, when you go for a good run, your chemicals are up and they stay up. I think exercise. I was really disappointed when the school started removing playground and all that. Those kids need that.
I know, and then they took away PT, or what do they call it, physical therapy, or no, PE.
Yeah.
PE, and I even whenever I talk, you know, we got 2 dental schools here, and whenever I see the dean, I say, it's sad that PE classes, and then I go, PE class? You got PE class in dental school, medical school, or law school. I'm like, dude, it's an instrument, it's a tool, and these kids, they take away physical education, and then when he's not getting his yayas out, they say, oh, well, you need a medication.
Right.
Oh, you need Ritalin. Well, what was the child doing? Well, he was all bouncing around.
Right.
Well, does he have PE? Did they go out and play dodgeball and run around the playground and play for an hour and get the yaya? No, we just give him a pill, you know.
Yeah.
It's I think PE should be. I mean, when you work at Intel, you got to do your own PE, you know, before work or after work. But as far as the children go, that's you can't rely on them getting that at home. And you feed them lunch. No,
I agree. And
I think these 2 dental schools and the law school and the med school need it the most, because those guys are strung out of their mind. And then they're going to justify, I don't have time to exercise, I got a test tomorrow, I'm going to get another hour of studying. And it's like, Spanky, slow down.
And if you tell them, like if they're struggling with something that they're working on, I tell people, go take a walk, go take a run, go get yourself out of that environment. They come back, they're in a whole new fresh space to work on what they're working on. I mean, and you talk to anybody, they're going to say, yeah, that does help, and it makes them feel good.
So, I can't believe that we've already, that we did our hour, but I want you to look at them and tell them, who should see you?
Anybody. We all have our traumas, we all have our issues, we all have those things we would like to improve on. We have things that we'd like to just grow as a person, adults, children, couples. The big thing is, you know, if you give me a call, then we can discuss, you know, a little bit what's going on, but generally with the intake, we can try to figure out what's going to be the best option to work through some of the things that you're going through. Just like checkups, I feel that therapy is just something that should be part of life. And having that person that is an outside party that is going to listen to you, understand, give you honest feedback, and has the skills to help you work through some things. People don't realize therapy's come a long ways than somebody sitting in an office and taking notes of what you've been saying for the session. It's more, at least for me, it's more interactive, where we work together as a team to try to work through these things. And the tools that we use, and like I said, you know, there's even skills or things that can be taught that maybe you didn't even think of.
And the biggest secret sect of people in Ahwatukee that don't get enough attention is there's a lot of older widowed populations in Ahwatukee. I mean, there's a ton of 70, 80. There's a great friend of mine who still works at Safeway that served in World War II. He's 95. Wow. But there's
I think I know who died.
Yeah. So if your lover died, you know, what if he's fighting his lover died? He's 85 years old and he's lonely and depressed.
Then we're going to be working on the loss. And then you got to remember here again, this is not his first loss. So you may have a whole history of losses. So sometimes you might have a loss, and this is a loss that pushes them over the edge. And that, there again, that goes into people who are suicidal.
And final question, since we're in overtime, what if she works Monday through Friday 8 to 5 and she has a hard time leaving work? Is that your hours, Monday through Friday 8 to 5?
Generally Monday through Thursday. I do have a therapist that works under me that also works some days. She works Saturdays.
So what are your hours Monday through Thursday?
I can't say specifically because
It's by appointment only.
Yeah, I kind of work my schedule where I have a couple evenings and then the morning. So it depends on if it's a day that I have.
So you do have some before work and after work?
Yeah, I'd say more after work.
Okay.
Because the earliest appointment I usually start is around 9 in the morning. Because I do have a lot of people that come in later. But remember, this is a medical thing. You have the right to take time off for medical appointments.
Part of your boundaries.
Yep.
Establish your
And now
boundaries.
everybody has time off.
Well, I just think it was beyond very cool that you took an hour out of your very busy life to come by the house and talk to everyone at Ahwatukee about this very
This was
special
fun.
deal.
And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to
Yeah.
understand some of all.
Yeah, and I've heard about you through friends and patients for a long time, and I just want to thank you for all that you've done for your patients and for Ahwatukee
Thank you.
for over a decade.
Thank
So
you.
thanks for coming by.
Thank you so much.